Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the RINO Removal Project for inviting me to be part of this incredible event. Ever since I started my campaign earlier this year, I have been meeting with patriots just like you, people who are tired of being lied to by career politicians who say one thing back home and do another the moment they set foot in Washington. This movement, your movement, is not about party labels, it is about principle. It is about cleaning out the corruption that has infected the Republican Party for far too long, and no one represents that problem more clearly than Lindsey Graham. For over 30 years, Lindsey Graham has built a career pretending to be a conservative while repeatedly betraying our trust, cutting deals with the very people destroying this country, selling us out for his own political gain, and putting his ambitions above the people he swore to represent. He has rubber-stamped nearly every bloated budget, championed foreign wars that profit special interests, and led the charge for surveillance bills that strip us of our privacy and constitutional rights, from the Patriot Act to every FISA expansion. Lindsey Graham has never hesitated to sacrifice our liberties for D.C. power, money, and influence. He now chairs the Senate Budget Committee while our national debt has just crossed $38 trillion. He has failed to pass a balanced budget, failed to rein in spending, and failed the people of South Carolina and America. He has spent his career fighting harder for foreign countries' borders than our own. He has handed hundreds of billions to foreign governments while veterans sleep under bridges and our roads crumble. We cannot afford another 6 years of Washington insiders playing dress up as conservatives. Real conservatives fight to secure our borders, our fiscal stability, and the right of every American to live free from government overreach. That's why I'm running, not because I want to join the club, but because the club has betrayed us. Because our children and grandchildren deserve a country that values truth over kickbacks and insider trading schemes. That is why I'm proud to stand with the RINO Removal Project tonight. You understand something that too many Republicans have forgotten, that we do not owe our loyalty to politicians. We owe it to our God. We owe it to the Constitution. We owe it to the truth. The RINO Removal Project is lighting a fire under complacent leadership across this country. You are showing that we can take our party back one seat at a time, and it starts with calling out the fake Republicans who have been selling us out for decades at all levels of government. We must send career politicians a message. We are not here to go along to get along. We are here to restore integrity, accountability, and courage to our party and our government. Tonight, I want to thank everyone for standing up, for donating, and for showing up when it matters most. The mission of the RINO Removal Project is essentially the same reason I started my campaign, so I would be happy to help in any way I can. We have a long road ahead, but with your help, we're going to send a lot of RINOs home, and I will do my best to send Lindsey home as well. Let's show the world that conservative principles still mean something. Let's show them that the grassroots, not the lobbyists, still run the Republican Party. They always used to talk about the silent majority, but we aren't silent anymore. God bless the RINO Removal Project. God bless Tennessee, and God bless the United States of America.
This is Don Brown, Republican candidate for United States Senate in North Carolina, running against Michael Whatley. I wanted to take this opportunity to extend a warm and heartfelt greetings to my good friends at the RINO Removal Project, and to thank you for your patriotism, for your love of God, country, family, and the United States Constitution. Thank you for sharing my vision and our vision of returning this great nation of ours, the United States of America, back to the constitutional republic vision that was set forth by the founders. You know, since I entered this race initially against Tom Tillis in February, who subsequently dropped out of the race, and now against Michael Whatley, who jumped into the race after Laura Trump declined to jump in, I've been sounding an alarm all over the state of North Carolina that a battle is coming within the next 6 years, and possibly even sooner than that, for the heart and soul and even the survival of our constitutional republic. Everywhere we go, I remind folks that we are facing not only unprecedented forces of evil, as we saw with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, with these out-of-control federal judges like Boasberg and Reyes and others ordering the president to turn a plane around full of illegal immigrants without constitutional authority, with folks who should have been mourning Charlie Kirk's assassination, but actually celebrating it. We've seen that sort of thing from the other side. We're facing tremendous forces of evil as the Democrats continue to attempt to use our coveted justice system for purposes of political warfare. But we're also facing and running against the law of mathematics. What I mean by that is this. When I entered this race in February, the national debt was somewhere in the upper $36 trillion range. It ran through $37 trillion, and then just a couple of weeks ago, the national debt crested $38 trillion. And our Republican Party has zero plan to attack and reverse the national debt. A few weeks ago, I was headed up to speak in beautiful Buncombe County, Asheville, North Carolina. And there's this website that many of you may know. It's called usdebtclock.org. And I was on the site, and it shows an online accumulation of the national debt exploding in our eyes. And I set my alarm for 1 minute. And after the alarm went off, I looked back at the debt clock, and the debt had increased $2 million in 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, the national debt is increasing at approximately $37,000 a second, $2 million a minute, and $2 billion a day. To be more precise, about $2.8 billion per day. But whether it's $2 or $3 billion per day, the point of the matter is it is not sustainable. Our Republican congressmen sometimes like to point out that they have reduced the federal spending under the Democrats, which is true. The national debt was exploding at about $55,000 to $60,000 a second under Biden. Now it's come down. Yet there still is no definite plan to stop and reverse it. And what will the consequences be if we don't? Well, every great nation that ever controlled the earth at one point or the other as an empire always had the international currency of choice. For the Romans, it was the denarius. The Dutch during the Golden Age had the gilding. And the Spanish, when Columbus discovered America and when they were the dominant power of the world, had the peso. They once said the sun would never set on British soil. The Brits had the pound sterling, which fell to the US dollar at Bretton Woods in 1944. Each of these nations lost their currency as the international currency of trade because of reckless and foolish overspending and spending beyond their means. And every time that their currencies fell, these nations dropped like a rock. President Trump sent B-2 bombers to bomb Iran's nuclear site just a few months ago with these bunker-busting bombs. Can you imagine France or Britain or any other country being able to do that? No. The United States was able to do that only because we are an economic superpower. But once we lose the dollar, we will fall just as fast as Britain fell after World War II. And what will the consequences be of us losing the dollar? We're not going to try to replace our coveted currency with some other paper currency. It won't be the Chinese currency, won't be the Japanese yen, won't be the euro dollar, won't be the British pound sterling, the Canadian dollar. No, nothing like that. Where they're heading is here. They want to replace our dollar with something called a central bank digital currency. That's what the Democrats are pushing for. That's what the one world order banksters are pushing for. And that's what we must resist at all costs. The problem here is that we go on and on and on. And yes, a lot of the elements of the big, beautiful bill had to be passed. We had to stop the foolish, massive immigration coming across the border. And that has largely been done. But yet we've not done enough to arrest and reverse the national debt. I will push what I call a Deep State Reduction Act. The Deep State Reduction Act would mandate a reduction of all federal agencies by 2/3 over 10 years, which are not constitutionally mandated. You cannot, for example, find any constitutional mandate for the Department of Education. Others have to go as well, including the Internal Revenue Service. But ladies and gentlemen, Congress has to have the will and the political fortitude in order to do this. Whenever you take candy from a baby, that baby's going to cry. And we're going to have to step out and arrest this national debt before we lose the dollar. If we lose the dollar, we will fall as a nation. From the floor of the United States Senate, I will sound the alarm. And I will encourage the Republican Party to come up with a game plan. It's like George S. Patton once said, that an imperfect plan, fearlessly and recklessly executed, is better than a perfect plan sitting on the shelf and gathering dust. Ladies and gentlemen, RINO Republicans, have no plan. In fact, no Republicans have any plan right now to attack the national debt. If we don't attack this debt and reverse it, then everything else will be lost. I will make that a priority of my term as the first term United States Senator. I'm not going to make a lot of friends, probably even from within my own party, but our nation's survival depends on it. Additionally, we have got to stand for medical freedom. What the Democrats did to us, and some Republicans as well, during COVID was an absolute national disgrace. Forcing people to be in a position where you have to take experimental jabs or lose your job is inexcusable. And how dare any of them claim that certain people's jobs are not essential? Ladies and gentlemen, if you got a job and you're supporting your family, that's essential. I will fight for medical freedom from the floor of the Senate. I will fight for a National Vaccination Protection Act so that never, ever again can either a local government, a state government, a federal government, or any private employer force Americans to choose between experimental vaccinations or their job. And this will cover and protect Americans against having anything inserted in our bodies, including microchips. This is what the World Economic Forum has been talking about in recent years. And finally, you've got to rein in these out of control federal judges who have no constitutional authority to do what they do. When the Constitution was passed on the 17th of September, 1787, it still had to be ratified. And one of the greatest fears that the Anti-Federalists had was out of control federal judges. Alexander Hamilton wrote Federalist 78, and in it, he tried to assure the states that the judiciary would be the weakest form of government, which brings up another constitutional fiction, just like separation of church and state, which is a constitutional fiction. The notion that we are a democracy is a constitutional fiction. The notice that there are three co-equal branches of government is a constitutional fiction. Congress has the authority to bring these judges under control. I will push what I call a Judicial Separation of Powers Act, which will remind these federal judges of their limitations under Federalist 78, and will clip their wings of any and all authority, which they don't have anyway, under matters dealing with immigration and naturalization and the United States military. I really appreciate and am blessed by the great work of the RINO Removal Project. Together, we have an opportunity to save this nation, but it won't be easy. And we got to get to work quickly. And we've got to call out, go along, get along Republicans who want to kick the can down the road. If we continue with status quo republicanism, eventually we will fall. Now is the time to reverse the damage that has been caused by Democrat Congresses and to go after the deep state and take it out. I'm Don Brown. I stand for the United States Constitution and am very grateful for our friends at the RINO Removal Project. We're on the same wavelength. We are standing for freedom, and I hope to see you all real soon. I'm sorry that I had a scheduling conflict this weekend, but appreciate your great work. Thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless America.